Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated live on Channels Television. Well, it's still the first trading day of 2026 and markets are buzzing. Here's what's coming up. African stocks kick off 2026 in positive territory as key markets open the year on a strong note. We'll find out what's driving early momentum. And Turkey is set to launch its first overseas deep-water drilling operation off the coast of Somalia next month. And the South African rand opens 2026 on a steady note, holding its ground in holiday thin trading. And it's great to have you join us. Let's get a check on what's playing out with major markets that we track now. They're starting with metals. After a fantastic, 2025 for most of the metals that we track here. And 2026 kicking off with the same momentum. Is green on the screen across board. There was spot gold 1.3% up, US gold futures 0.1% up, $4,386 per ounce. And we see spot silver, that was one of the best ones there in 2025, $73.30 per ounce, 2.8%, starting off strong. Platinum 3.1% up, palladium and copper not left out, 0.83%. So that's a picture right there in the metals market. We're starting off strong. Who knows? Maybe the same sentiment might continue, in 2026. Let's get a check on oil now. On the flip side, oil didn't have the best year in 2025, and yes, things that started to trickle into the 2026 trade. 82 cents barrel. That's for Brent crude, down about 7 basis points to start the year. WTI crude also down about 3 basis points, 57.40 a barrel. It's still the range trade carrying on in 2026, and geopolitics still driving sentiment and talk about oversupply of oil into the market in 2026. That's also driving sentiment right there in the market. We'll see what plays out in tomorrow's trade. But let's get a sense of what's playing out with other countries now. Other top stories, we see Turkey there. They're planning their first overseas deepwater drilling in Somalia next month. And this is the first deepwater exploration project abroad, by Turkey. The energy minister confirmed this today. He said the operation with the Gabri Bay vessel will focus on offshore areas in Somali waters, but did not provide details on targeted reserves and the investment size. So we're still waiting for more details on this, but that's one of the top stories today. Then we see in Ghana another top story during the holidays. Ghana's Tema oil refinery, that's back in operation after 4 years offline, marking a major step in the country's push to strengthen domestic fuel production and reduce costly imports. The state-owned refinery has resumed crude processing at over 60% capacity following critical maintenance upgrades, with plans to ramp up output further. The restart comes as Ghana continues, to spend billions of dollars in importing petroleum products, putting pressure on foreign exchange reserves. And definitely we've seen the Dangote refinery come online, and this is supposed to be a market for the Dangote refinery there. So we'll see how that plays out in this year. Then coming on the currency stage now, we see the South African rand kicking off the year steady. It's a steady start. We see investors there still trying to get direction on how other global markets are trading today. So investors there just putting a pause now on what to the executions there, the buying or selling the currency at this point. So it's a steady start. We'll also get a check on how the Naira kicks off 2026. All right, let's get a check on markets now. Definitely, we see on the African continent, markets are starting off strong. Even the NGX right there looking good. It kicked off the year on a positive footing there with the all-share index at midday. It's not convincing enough, but 7 basis points is positive. We'll take that, at this point. Then we see stocks leading, banking, consumer goods, industrial goods, all starting off the year strong. While we see oil and gas shares, that's remaining under pressure. Oil and gas did too well in 2025, and that's also starting off. When we look at the Middle Eastern markets, definitely we know how oil markets drive sentiment there. But the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, that is strong, 0.49% at intraday, 116,402 points. Great year 2025 for this one, and that's continuing. EGX 30 closed at 0.33%. That was the last trade for the 1,828 points. At the Nairobi Stock Exchange, the last close there, 0.65% up. Let's get a check on Middle Eastern markets now. Yeah, we see for the UAE, Dubai index looking stronger there. We did see stocks like Al Salam Bank, getting attention. American restaurants, international in the green, and that's driving sentiment right there in the UAE. Abu Dhabi index just 6 basis points, 9,998 points. If we check out, I got to check now Saudi Arabia. That's Tadawul. 10,549 points, also starting the year strong, 0.56%, even though we're seeing pressure right there in the oil market. Qatari index closed 0.26% down. That's for the last previous trade. Well, let's get a check on U.S. markets now. The U.S. futures was a good year, 2025, for most of the indexes in the U.S. Then, it's looking good. This Friday, the first trading day of 2026, we're seeing technology stocks, getting attention right there in the U.S. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, 0.38% up. S&P futures, 0.65%. So, yeah, definitely, we know the AI, that's the AI trade. Last year, that was, driving sentiment with profit taking, right there. Then we see the tech-heavy NASDAQ, 1.09% for the futures there. So this is giving us direction for what the main trade will look like later today when it closes. Then taking it on to Asia now, I was seeing Asia Pacific markets, the beginning of the new year on a mixed notes, today with South Korea's Kospi, stealing the spotlight after surging to a fresh record high. We saw gains in heavyweight technology stocks, led by Samsung Electronics, that lifted sentiment, while strong moves in Hong Kong shares fueled by education stocks and a blockbuster tech IPO that added to the region's upbeat start to 2026. So we see the big 2% rises there. Other parts of Asia now, we see for the Nifty 50, that's also kicking off strong, 0.68%. That's close, at this point, 26,325 points. Breaching that 25,000 level and now staying, looking quite comfortable at 26,325 points. Let's get a check on what's playing out in Europe now. Joining us to bring us up to speed there, we have Lars Holter in Berlin. Great to have you, Lars. Happy New Year. Is it looking strong, markets in Europe, starting off this first trading day of 2026?
Yes, and Happy New Year to you as well, Ladi. Good to be back with you again. It was indeed, or it still is, a good first day of trading here. Initially, we saw London down, Paris down, Madrid down, but they've all rallied up a little bit. The DAX was in the green right from the get-go, so that is nice, obviously. But, Ladi, as you could imagine, volume is still low. With this first day of trading being a Friday, it was kind of expected that we wouldn't see too much action. On Monday then next week, we should be back in business. As for some economic data, we got some Eurozone inflation numbers. They are pretty stable. Food prices a bit higher, energy prices dropping a bit. So that won't give markets much of a direction. Like I said, Monday will likely bring more news and more action to the markets.
Quite interesting. First trading day of the year, starting on the last trading day of the week. Quite interesting. Well, as we're starting the new year, Germany in particular is still trying to fix its, economic problems. What are you hearing on the strategies, Berlin, wants to implement?
Well, Aladi, I do know that whatever strategies they have, they didn't bring growth as fast as some had hoped, because many insiders thought we would see growth in 2025 already. So what are we now looking at in 2026? Some ideas we've been hearing over and over, including, of course, lower taxes for businesses. The argument, of course, being that lowering the cost of business would give German companies a leg up over business from other countries, other regions in the world. However, one leading economist here in Germany says not so fast. His name is Achim Truger, and he is one of the 5 economists advising the German government. And he says that indeed lowering taxes for business would not have that big an effect on companies, but that the lack of revenue that the government would be seeing might have a much bigger effect. And that, of course, would be a negative effect, that it could lead to spending cuts, and that would likely hinder growth in the end instead of spurring it. Also, that same economist says that the other big idea of taking 1 or 2 holidays off the calendar to increase productivity might not be that great of an idea. He says while the discussion is politically unpopular, the positive economic effects might actually be negligible.
So, what options does it all leave for the economy?
Well, if analysts are currently optimistic, then it is mostly because of the expected government spending we should be seeing in 2026, defense spending as well as non-defense spending, infrastructure and such. But that would bring us back to the first item here on the list, taxes. If corporate taxes were indeed cut, then that spending would likely go down. So some are actually asking to raise taxes on the rich, of course, bring back the inheritance tax, for example, and actually generate more money for the government, more money to be spent in an effort to strengthen the economy. Of course, such an idea, as effective as it might actually be, is politically extremely unpopular. So, no idea at this point if we will be actually seeing anything of that sort.
All right, thank you so much, Lars. I'm definitely looking to reporting more of the European economy with you in 2026. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ladi.
All right, let's get to another conversation now relating to digital assets. See, not just crypto and digital asset space. That's a crossroads now. With no clear legal framework yet, the industry has continued to grow, attracting both opportunity and scrutiny. A cryptocurrency committee at the National Assembly, led by Honorable Bamishele, is now working to chart a path forward. But questions remain: how are stakeholders engaging with the committee to ensure the sector's growth is balanced with security, regulation, and economic impact? Joining me to unpack this now, we have Mela Cloud. Ake is the lead partner at Mela Cloud Ake & Co. And we also have Shegun Koshemani, CEO of Botme Cash. Great to have you both. Happy New Year. Fantastic. All right, I'll start with you, Claude. Great to have you on the show, Claude. So, Nigeria's crypto space, buzzing, with the absence of a clear, digital asset and crypto law. Now there's a cryptocurrency committee, at the National Assembly led by Honorable Bamishele working towards, changing this. In what ways are stakeholders, working with the committee to ensure, the report, encompasses the reality and, fosters growth in all areas of the economy with security and regulation? What are you seeing there?
Thank you, Ladi. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, the virtual space, the crypto space, has grown largely from where it used to be many years ago, where it was almost a crime to be involved in blockchain activities, to where it is today, where the Investment and Securities Act of 2025 has recognized virtual assets as part of investment and securities and is regulated with the Securities and Exchange Commission. However, reform is an ongoing project in any policy, in any jurisdiction, in any country of the world, and in every sector. Um, so it doesn't mean that the ISA 2025 is our final bus stop. There's still more to do. There's still more to be done. It's an evolving space to continue to evolve. The attention of the National Assembly through ad hoc committee set by the Speaker of the House of Representatives as chairman is very welcome, and we hope that we can cooperate even further. We already have um, areas where we're already collaborating and trying to work things out with the National Assembly. We want to do more, be more involved in helping to shape very useful legislation for the ecosystem. So we are, at the moment, wanting to interactions, but we hope to deepen that and cover more ground in the new year.
Definitely, we're watching the space. 2025 was a year of so much talk about regulation and, digital assets. That was a big conversation here in Nigeria. Let me bring it to Shegun now. So, Shegun, what would you say were the biggest challenges, facing, blockchain, and the virtual asset industry in Nigeria, most of 2025? What would you say were the, biggest challenges? And it seems, will they still continue, with us in 2026?
Happy New Year, Ladi. Happy New Year, Channels TV. Thank you for always giving us the platform for expression. We really love Channels TV because we know that you take blockchain and the virtual assets emerging industries seriously. The absence of standards and market structure made our system, and I mean the entire blockchain, cryptocurrency, virtual asset system, a system without guardrails. When you have fragmented regulatory circulars, when you have overlapping institutional mandates, when you have markets determining its own participants by itself, determining its own rules by itself, compliance becomes very selective. Yes, the ISA 2025 was a beautiful beginning, but of course, like I've always maintained, we need more. We lack a market structure. Like the US have a Clarity, Act, they have the Genius Act. The Clarity Act is more like what is going on now, like a market structure bill. That's what we need. We need a Bible for the virtual asset service space. Blockchain is very big. It's not just virtual assets alone. There's cryptocurrency. There's so many things that you can use the blockchain for beyond monetary values. So we hope that this fragmentation will convert into alignment, and a big opportunity is in front of us. The Speaker of the House of Representatives have led the country towards a pathway using the Bamishile-led committee. I mean, the Committee for Economic, Regulatory, and Security Implications of Cryptocurrency and Point of Sale Adoption in Nigeria. Now we have an opportunity. Last year, between 70 to 100 stakeholders were there at the National Assembly to make our voice heard, and they listened to us. I mean, more than 15 players spoke. And of course, that same committee have had the opportunity to speak with the ONSA, the SEC, the NFIU, the EFCC, and we understand very well, it is glaring, no more question, that this is what is affecting the market and making it speculative is because of lack of coherence amongst the regulators and, of course, the stakeholders. Really, there's something called the NTAA, which has begun from yesterday, the 1st of January 2026, right? To some subtle extent, I don't want to use the word large, so I don't become too ambiguous. The NTAA pretty much kind of undermined the ISA 2025, and a lot of people are not talking. But we think that we can really help this government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and all the regulators as true stakeholders, ones who are heavily invested in this space. We are the market participants. We are the ones who the investors come to directly. We are the ones who determine how transaction moves in partnership with many stakeholders on the regulatory side. For example, the banks are the ones who are in charge of on-ramp and off-ramp. But we act like this is not the reality, when that is how money moves via virtual assets. It should be brought to the open, right? We should stop regulating in silos. There should be partnership, synergy between the SEC and the central bank. Central bank handles payments, SEC handles security. We have the EFCC in charge of crimes and whatever it is, illicit money flow being monitored by the NFIU. Very, very important, because if you're doing transaction in this country, whether virtual asset or not, you must report to the NFIU. And then the ONSA takes it very serious, because this is a matter of national security. So fragmentation must become alignment. That was our biggest problem in 2026. And we hope that that loophole that has attracted foreign infrastructure, foreign entities to take up our market share and eat away what we are supposed to be benefiting from, making us consumers where we are supposed to be owners, end in 2026.
All right. Let me take to you now, Mela. Definitely, you have the legal background, but how do you think, blockchain, digital assets regulation, how do you think it should be, orchestrated, in Nigeria? And do you think it's something that can be regulated in a short time? This is a technology a lot of people don't really understand. Do you think it might take more years to actually truly regulate and, get an alignment, for all of these different stakeholders?
Thank you very much, Ladi. The regulators are not totally new to the blockchain technology phenomenon. Even though it's an emerging sector, they are not new to this. They've been grappling with it for quite some time. And, one of these ways to get a grip of something which you do not really and clearly understand is to look at someone else who has made some progress with it. Now, Nigeria is not the only country in the world that is trying to make sense of this emerging technology. Several other countries who are grappling with it, but have been able to come up with very interesting and somewhat comprehensive legislation. What we need to do, what our regulators need to do, what our lawmakers need to do, is see where they can borrow a leaf, from other countries, whether in Africa, whether in North America, in Europe, and so on and so forth. Right? And lie with others in the sector domestically to say, okay, these are the things we find. What do you think we should move in order to adapt these to our own unique circumstances? Because it doesn't make sense to adopt things wholesale all the time. You must factor in your unique circumstances. So I don't think we need another 5, 10 years for our regulators or our lawmakers to be able to understand what they've been seeing this for quite a time. Many of them have gone on international training courses and refresher courses and so on and so forth to give them the understanding of what this technology is about. And the truth is that it is these trainings, the exposure to these trainings, these courses, and these interactions that have even brought them to this place of acceptance, right? Where we now have virtual assets being included in the Corporate Investment and Securities Act 2025, and also the circular by the Central Bank of Nigeria, walking back its previous position where it didn't want banks to have any dealings with anybody that was doing anything in crypto. So now it has walled back its position, and all of this is because they have exposed themselves to knowledge about the sector, knowledge about the technology. They see the benefits. They know that it's evident. So all they need to do right now is rub minds with their own colleagues in other countries to be able to understand what the best practice is or best practices are globally. And then, like I said, meet with the stakeholders back home and say, hey, guys, how do we do this? How do we fine tune this for our own unique circumstances?
All right, so I guess, for Nigeria, get something that works, for Nigeria, not really take out, what's going on in the global space. We see what's happening in the U.S. But, Segun, at this point, I'm going to take you to some price action. Now, I know you're a Bitcoin maxi, Segun. In a few minutes now, 2025, Bitcoin closed in red the whole year. That's for 2025. This is the first time this is happening, post-halving. I know you're a Bitcoin maxi. Talk to me. How do you see that play out for Bitcoin?
I mean, that's cheap sats for everyone. There are 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin, just like you have 60 kobo make 1 Naira. I think I'm not wrong with that. The unit of account of Naira is kobo. The unit of account of cent, of dollar is cent. That of cedis is pesos. That of pound sterling is pence. The unit of account of Bitcoin is SATS for short, SATS, or Satoshi Nakamoto, Satoshi for full, drawn from the name of the pseudonymous inventor. Now, there are 100 million Satoshis in one BTC, and one Satoshi now is costlier than 1 Naira. In other words, you would need almost 1 Naira, 30 kobo to buy one Satoshi. That wasn't the case about 1 year ago. As a matter of fact, your 1 Naira, just about 10 Naira could have bought you half a Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, 100 Naira could have bought you 2 Bitcoins less than 14, 13 years ago, right? And you see how that has changed so far. So when price of Bitcoin pretty much comes down like this, and people say, oh, Bitcoin has crashed, I just laugh. That's a bonanza. For people like me, I see that as an opportunity to buy more, right? Because we have cheaper sats. Even at the rate that Bitcoin price is now in fiat terms, right, of $80,000, one sat is still bigger than 1 naira. So young people like myself and true investors don't even want to save in the naira. That's why you see people running after stable coins, yada, 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 which is still a Trojan horse for dollarization anyway. So I think people should realize that Bitcoin is a scarce asset. Bitcoin is the best performing asset in the last 10 years. If you look at the growth trajectory of Bitcoin, nothing has really beat it. I've said that over and over again.
Right.
And Bitcoin was largely, the market cap was largely higher than that of silver some months ago. And you can see what silver is doing now. Now, when we get back into the bullish season, what do you think Bitcoin is going to be doing? Most likely, the market cap is going to beat that of NVIDIA. So it's an opportunity for people to buy more. Nigeria should actually pay attention to cushion our, financial reserve, just like we have gold, just like we have oil. We should actually buy Bitcoin for the country. Look at what America is doing. Bitcoin is no more a monetary conversation. It's now a national security grade conversation.
All right, Shago, yeah. And I did mention, yes, you're a Bitcoin maxi, and definitely you've seen a silver lining even in that performance for 2025. Well, thank you so much. We've run out of time now, but thank you both for coming on the show today. Shagun Kosheman is the CEO, Bought Me Cash, Mela Claude, my lead partner, Mela Claude Ake & Co. Thank you both, and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Laddie. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, bye.
Fantastic. All right, so yes, it's first trading day, and I'll give you a summary later on what played out for Nigeria stock market. Thanks for watching Business Incorporated, the first one for this year. I'm Ladi Williams from the team right here at Channels HQ. It's bye for now.